Welcome to the Kingdom Factors of Little Rock, Arkansas podcast with your host, David Moody.
Hey, everybody. Really looking forward to today's session. I've got Rudy Ortiz with me today, and Rudy and I have known each other as business colleagues and brothers of faith for, golly, Rudy, I don't know, 10 years or something?
Actually, more like 14.
14. Okay, yeah. So glad he's here with me today. He's got a wonderful, interesting background and some interesting perspective on that intersection between faith and business operations. And so, Rudy, why don't you just take a minute here and give everybody some background on your career up to this point, how you got into this. You're kind of like me. You've done a lot of different things.
A lot of different things for sure. Well, I've been doing business consulting for about 27 years now, but I also have a pretty significant technology background. And so I worked in technology for almost 20 years before I went and got my formal academic education and
Mm.
got my bachelor's and master's, and have been doing business consulting and finance sort of work for, like I said, for about 27 years. And so I, previously had been assistant director and director of the small business development centers, both in Texas and in Utah. So I've been working with
Mhm.
small and medium-sized businesses for a really long time, since 97, I think it was.
Wow.
So once again, a while. And I've continued to do that kind of work. And so, my education is real diverse. And so I have a real strong understanding of finance and human resources management and marketing. Taught marketing at the university, taught entrepreneurship for many years at the colleges and universities as well, and have a manufacturing and operations background as well. So I've done a lot of interesting things. And so my focus is helping senior management of companies with in a variety of ways. At the end of the day, I guess you could say my, kind of overall uh, focus is on helping companies grow, but that takes different routes depending on what the needs of the company and the management need to be able to do so. I mean, sometimes it's just one thing, but more times than not, there are several things that are tied together. And so, because of my education and background and extensive experience with helping companies, I'm able to look at companies very holistically, as opposed to looking at them just, from a finance perspective or HR perspective or marketing perspective. I'm able to look at the entire company because I actually understand how the entire company works, the different facets of a company, and to make sure that when you pull on the string, knowing that it affects something else, right? And how those two things or three things or five things
Yeah.
are tied together. And so
It doesn't all come unravel.
yeah, so it doesn't come unravel, because a lot of times that's exactly what will happen. You'll have somebody who's
Yeah.
maybe the a number one marketing guy, but he's not looking at management issues, training issues, HR issues, finance issues, operation issues. They don't have the witherall to look at some of those things, and so they don't. And even though their advice may be really really good in terms of their specific expertise, it doesn't take into account these other things, and that in itself can cause problems. So, and I also have been doing international business work for a very long time. I was actually appointed by the U.S. Secretary of Commerce to what's called the District Export Councils, and was actually on the board of directors of the national organization of the District Export Councils. And so I'm currently also part of a 34 country global consortium of market entry experts, in which we assist companies from all over the world to enter new foreign markets. So, and I'm a certified global business professional, and was provide certifications by the Department of Commerce. And
Hmm.
anyway, so been doing a lot of international sorts of stuff for a very long time as well, but much more extensively the last 12 years or so. And
Yeah.
I'm the director over the chair over the Export Council's export and supply chain management training, of which we conduct here in Arkansas, but we have people who come to our webinars
Hmm.
from all over the world, and
Yeah.
we put on somewhere between 13 and 14 webinars on those topics.
Wow.
So once again, uh, fractional CFO sorts of work, along with acquisition of financing, human resources management, marketing and market entry, and operations. Those are at least some of the areas that I help clients with.
Yeah. Other than that, you don't have much going on.
No. I just sit around all the time.
Oh, well, well, give us the other track. Give us your sort of your faith journey, Rudy. I mean, that was one of the things that so impressed me early on about you, was that was not something you weren't hiding it under a bushel basket. It was part of who you were, and you were open about talking about that, and we've had some great conversations about that. And so, did you grow up in a faith based family? Did you come to it later in life? What's that
I guess you
story?
could say the answer is both. I was raised a Catholic, and we were a devout Catholic family. As it turns out, when I was about 19 and my brother was 14, he and my cousin got run over by a drunk, and were
Mm,
killed almost instantly. And quite frankly, lost my faith as a consequence of that, and really was agnostic for several years. Well, I say several years, um, 8, 9, 10 years, where
yeah.
I was, really
Wow.
an agnostic at best. And then I had, I lived in I wound up in Montana with, through my military career, and I had kind of a spiritual reawakening during that period of time, and which God kind of made it clear to me what understanding God better, and the fact that we have to be patient, and that things don't always go the way that we think they do, and but that God always has a purpose in everything that He does, even though at the time we ain't pleased by it.
It's not obvious, is it?
No, it's not obvious, and more often than not, we don't like it.
We don't like
Yeah.
it.
And the reality, in addition to all of that, is, I've always been a very adventurous person. A mountain climber, ice climber, um, uh, kayaking, deep sea kayaking, and just a motocross racing, and just about everything that could get me killed. I've done in my life, and there are many times where I really should have died, and have not, obviously. And apparently God's not finished with me. He's not finished teaching me whatever it is that He thinks should be sinking through my thick head, and hopefully, must think that I have more value to give, to help companies and individuals on their journey as well.
That's great. So, how did you? So, when you at that point when you started listening to God again, and was there an event that sort of kick started that, or did what caused you to sort of be open minded enough then after all those years to start listening again?
Yeah, which, as it turns out, some missionaries came. Actually, prior to that, like I said, I was in the Air Force, and there was a young man in the same unit that I was in, and he and I got stuck on some duty that neither one of us wanted to be part of, but we were forced to do it, and so we had several hours to talk, and he was talking to me about his faith journey, And so, I became somewhat intrigued by what he was saying. And he asked me if it would be okay if the missionaries came over, and they did. And it took a little while. And all of that was, very, very interesting. But the reality is that God had to speak to me personally. All the information they were giving was, it was great and it was interesting, but that itself was not going to change who I was, or make me even think differently. But God sometimes takes a kind of a two by four, and as is often needed in my particular case, and had a spiritual experience that was so profound that I could not deny it, even if I wanted to, and that started the journey back to God.
Wow. So now you are engaging business owners and leaders around the world in your work. And, of course, your primary focus with them is helping them with business, some business challenge they have, or what, solving a problem for them, helping them get into the export game or whatever the case may be. But, you know, are there times when you have an opportunity to to share your faith with them? How do you, I guess the question is, do you get an opportunity to kind of integrate that conversation into your business work? And when that happens, what does that look like?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, most people that go into entrepreneurship, they do it because for a variety of reasons, but because they want to have more control over their lives. But those kind of people tend to be hard-headed, as you well know. And often they think that because they know how to be a plumber, or because they know how to be whatever, that means that they're also experts in business. And given that there's an 85% failure rate amongst business people, that apparently is not the case, right? And so sometimes I want to kind of whack them over the head, and have them, be more open to what I'm telling them. But I think part of it is I've had to learn to be patient with them, just like God has been patient, more than patient with me, and one of the things that has actually made it easier for me is that, for whatever reason, even though I consider myself kind of hard-headed and hard-hearted, quite frankly, I have an overwhelming love for people, to help them to be successful.
Mhm.
That has driven me since I was about 10 years old, and that has not changed. Despite all the failings that I have, and they are legion, that is one thing that has never changed, is the fact that I want to help people be successful wherever they are, and for me to be patient enough to be able to help them and show them the way.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because, as you know, you and I have talked about this. I mean, I've had the privilege and blessing, quite honestly, over the last couple of years to help hundreds of small business owners,
All right.
and through various programs that I was involved in. Well, I'll tell you, it's for me. I just, like you said, I just try to be patient and listen. And somewhere in the conversation, if they tend to be a faith based person, they'll say something or I'll say something. And it may be something as simple as, well, boy, that was a blessing to have this happen or that happen. Or, I felt like God was calling me to try to start this business because of something else that was going on in my life that wasn't working. And, it's that sort of comment. It's not a testimonial. It's not preachy. It's nothing like that. It's just a comment. Well, that sort of opens the door to some follow-on comments about that. And most of the time there's usually eventually a pretty robust conversation and sharing our stories of faith and that kind of thing. And it's such a challenging thing with a lot of these business owners that are faith-based people that want to try to, I mean, building a business is hard enough. It's hard and takes a vast skill set and knowledge base, and and that skill set and knowledge base is generally underestimated by most folks that get into business.
Hmm.
But to also try to integrate biblical principles into your culture, into the operating, into your operating procedures, into your hiring policies, into your performance management, into the stewardship of your finances, and all that stuff is just can be another challenge because most of the world doesn't seem to work that way or care about that.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know,
As a matter of fact, David, to that point, I I remember so clearly when I was director of the Small Business Development Center many years ago, and I had this young new client, and he was quite proud of the fact that he was dishonest, that he was,
mm,
he was conning people.
hmm
He had these supplements and whatnot, and they were all garbage. But he knew they were garbage, but he just thought it was just the coolest thing that he could con them. And I said, "Well, I'll tell you, son. Maybe that's part of your character, but when it comes to business, what works in business is being honest. That's what's going to keep you in business a real
long
long
term,
time.
right?
It isn't being dishonest." And of course, he didn't make it because he didn't make the change as well.
Right.
But I think that the and whether whether one considers it religious or not, the concept of being straightforward and honest and just telling the truth. I think that it is way too much work to lie. uh, I don't see the point.
Particularly as
And
we get older and our memories are
yeah, I mean,
real
you have to
faulty.
constantly be remembering the
I
last
can't
lie
keep
that you
up with
told
it.
Bob, and that's just way too much work for me. So I think that being honest and being straightforward and doing the best that you can, and if you mess up, well, hey, I mean, you say you messed up. Don't wait until they tell you, right? And just make it right. If you're going to be in business for any period of time, that is what works is wanting to do a good job. And if you fall short for whatever reason, um, then make it right. Don't make excuses. Make it right. Tell the truth, and you will find that you will attract a lot of people, because the reality is that there's a lot of competition out there, but most of them, to your point, are not particularly honest, and they think that if they can get away with something, then good on them, right? Uh, and I don't find that advisable. Not even removing religion out of the equation,
Mhm.
just from a practical perspective, being straightforward and honest is really the best route in terms of being successful in business.
And just treating people well. I know you and I have had a lot of conversations. We shake our head and we get frustrated when we see poor customer service and golly, it's all over the place, isn't it?
Hmm.
It and it's not just customers, it's vendors, it's all those relationships that you have in business. You have an opportunity to be a positive influence on people or not. And golly, I mean, I keep going to the great example for me is the Chick-fil-A model. I've never been. I remember the first time I went, and years and years ago, and got that. God bless you, or have a blessed day, or whatever the thing was. I said, "Oh, this is different." And at the time, I did not know. I just knew the food was. People said the food was good. I really didn't know anything about the culture of the company or the background of
Right.
it. And I thought, "Oh, wow, what a great combo! Good food and courteous service and a bless you before I left. Shoot, I'm not even hungry. I'm going to go back.
Well, they have a very strong following, and they
Yeah.
certainly don't apologize for it. I wanted to get back just for a second about a comment that you made earlier, that sometimes you'll be talking to somebody, and they will make some sort of comment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, that it was a blessing that X happened, and
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes. it provides an opening for a expansion of the discussion, and I think it's really really important to be open to the Spirit of the Holy Ghost
Yeah.
to listen. God will give you opportunities to be able to influence and to affect people in a positive way, but you have to be open. It may be that you say, "Oh, well, I wonder if I should say something."
Right.
And then you say, no, I better not, for whatever reason,
Right.
right?
Right.
uh, for whatever reason. But just being open and sensitive to the Spirit of the Holy Ghost, uh, where He will talk through you to say those things that that person needs to hear
Yeah.
at that time. And sometimes we forget that that's an important thing to do, is to be open and to not be shy, because at the end of the day, and I assure you that even as hard-headed and lacking in many things, uh, I am, as it turns out, real sensitive to the promptings of the Holy Ghost, and will listen and recognize that I will allow Him to speak through me, and that I'm not. It ain't going to be me talking, because
Right.
I don't have it in me. Quite
Right.
frankly,
Right.
I do not have it in me, and so. The fact that He's speaking through me and giving me the information that's needed to be able to serve that person where they're at. Uh, like I said, I'm very aware of that. Like I said, despite my many shortcomings.
Hey, have you had an example just a few minutes ago of a young man that was kind of going the other way, right? He was proud of his dishonesty and the ability to make money doing it.
Hmm.
Uh, have you seen some good examples that you can share regarding business owners who actually are trying to integrate some of their values into their business operations, and what does that look like? Do they hire people differently? Do they, eh, eh, you know, in terms of being a steward of the money of the finances? I have a lot of business owners say, not my business, it's God's business. I'm managing it. And that's their view, and they do their very best to kind of operate that way. So
Yeah.
what have you observed out there?
Well, interestingly enough, I'm originally from South Texas, uh, and I mean, I guess in some ways you could consider that the South, but not like like Arkansas or
Mhm,
Georgia
mhm.
or whatever. And certainly it seems to me, I mean, they call it the Bible Belt for a reason, right? I think that having those attitudes are much more accepted here versus other places that I've lived, and I've lived in several parts of throughout the
Yeah,
United
that's
States,
fair. Good point.
and so I don't think people here find it weird that somebody would say "God bless you" and those sorts of things, right? They don't find that odd at all, and they're receptive to that. But in addition to that, I think that in the South, people seem to be more willing to integrate God in their life than other places. That's
Mhm,
still an acceptable thing to do. It's
mhm.
still something that's encouraged and almost expected, right? Almost expected that what church do you go to, and that you would be going to church, right?
Right,
Uh,
right.
those are things that are almost expected of you, and so. As a consequence, people I think do integrate God more closely in their lives. It not necessarily perfectly, right? But at least they keep their religion is it's a touchstone that they keep
Yep,
touching. If every week or every so often, and so that influence is always there, and maybe its strength ebbs and flows depending on what's going on in your life, but it is something that's always there, and
yeah,
something that's just an integral part of their lives, and one doesn't say, well, religion is religion and business is business.
right.
I don't think that happens nearly as much here as it does elsewhere. And so I think that here in the South, people, and uh, I really like the South. I really respect the South, and one of the reasons for it is because of these things that we're
Yeah.
discussing. Just people are just much more accepting of the very concept that religion and that God ought to be in your life. In every aspect of your life.
Yeah. Rudy, what are the biggest challenges that you see out there right now in business, and what are the top two or three right now?
Are you talking about from an economic perspective or from
Oh,
a?
just from you know your interaction with all these different businesses and different business models. Just like I encounter as well in my work. What are you seeing out there that is the most challenging? The biggest challenge is keeping these businesses from being more successful. Is it the owner? Is it lack of knowledge about how just hard and complicated some of this stuff is, and that they need help and won't ask for it, or is it
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
it?
Well, it's certainly a lack of understanding and not having the information. Um, that's certainly a part of it. But you asked me a little while ago, is it the owner? Well, it's always the owners. I have never seen a case where the problems of a business didn't stem at some level or another from top management, whether we're talking about a business owner, whether we're talking
Yeah,
about senior management that only works at the company. I've never seen a case where that wasn't true. If they have bad employees, who hired them?
you're right.
What are their hiring practices? They have a pulse. That's their hiring practice, right? They don't test them. They don't incorporate their hiring practices to what they're strategically trying to accomplish. They see no connection between those things. But at the end of the day, an employee will make you or break your business.
Yeah,
And so at the end of the day, if you're not hiring the right people, if you're not hiring people to a specific, the ideal person needs to have these 12 things, right?
right.
And also, can that person help me move the strategy of the company forward? That is not even a consideration. That concept
Yeah.
is not even a
So
part of any part of their thinking,
that
but
Jim
it has
Collins
to be.
that Jim Collins concept of get the right people on the bus is not working. They're not
Well, it's
they're
not
not
just
doing a
not
very good
working.
job of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. So this very substantial company here in Arkansas. Um, they hired. This is a true story. They didn't happen to be my client, but they were a client of the organization I was working for. They hired 400 people 1 month, and 30 days later, 300 of them left. Well, there's only a few ways you can interpret that, right? You
Oh,
know, 300 people, 75% of the people had left within 30 days, and it's because they were, hiring people with pulses, and
right.
and often what happens is, so you're in a manufacturing firm, and you happen to be a really good a welder or a really good electrician or
Mm,
whatever, right? So they make you the manager over the welders, or over the plumbers or over the X, right? Whatever that
right,
happens to be. But
right.
the reality is that is highly unlikely to work out because those people don't. First of all, they give them no training. They have no training. They give them no training, and they think that because they're really good welders or X, that's going to make them a good
Yeah,
manager. But 9 times out of 10, the people who uh, are like to be, like tradespeople and whatnot. I
hmm,
mean, they're tradespeople because they're not good. They're not social. They're not sociable.
right,
And they really don't want to have. I mean, the stereotype of the IT technician, right?
right,
Uh,
right.
I mean that adheres to a
Sit
whole
in the
bunch of
dark,
other people as well, right?
sit in the dark, leave me alone.
Yeah.
When I worked we saw the same thing with NASA. Now you think
You would think.
Intelligent people, very sophisticated organization and mission. And I saw us uh, make some really great. The only way an engineer could continue up the food chain was to move into management. That's the only way they could do it. And so we created some really bad managers and lost some great engineers because they had no other way to, for their pay to continue to increase and seniority and all that stuff. There was no path. So that's what we got. It was terrible. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, and
you don't take the best engineer you got and then put him in a job. Quite honestly, he's a duck out of water. She doesn't like what she's doing, and yet, but that's the only way we can do it. And now they're not doing engineering work; they're managing people, which they don't like. So that's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. Once again, in every case, and I really have seen no exception, management is at fault at one level or another.
Mhm.
They have these platitudes of our mission and vision and all of that, but half of them don't understand it. They
Right.
certainly do not convey it to their mid management, and mid management does not convey it to the regular staff, right? And in many cases, you'll have upper management say, "Well, we don't need to tell them that. That's just common sense."
Right.
When in fact it isn't common sense.
Yeah.
It's only common sense if you actually understand the concepts, right? And so there's a real disconnect in terms of upper management to helping their employees at every level, from
Yeah.
from the vice president down to the janitor, to understand the real the meaning and the conceptual value of the mission and vision, and how that plays a part in developing the strategy of the company.
Hmm.
And I talk about that very often, about mission critical, mission important, and mission useful. And that concept is something that is just not not dealt with at all.
You may have just answered my last question, but as we close up here, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any pearls of wisdom with the business owners out there that might be listening to this, and particularly those that may be, uh, faith-based folks and trying to figure out how to make all of that work as well. Um, got any final comments for us, Rudy?
Well, yeah, and probably the trigger, the reason that was a trigger is because that really, really, really is important.
Yeah.
Is people look at tactics but not strategy,
Yeah.
and identifying what the strategy is predicated on the mission and vision, the things that you're trying to accomplish, and
Hmm.
and trying to figure out, what are the key things that you need to do to get there, right? And then you have the tactics that support those endeavors, those strategic endeavors, to be able to accomplish whatever the mission and vision is. And uh, 9 times out of 10 people, they start a business, and they got their nose to the grindstone, and it's day in and day out, well, without ever having thought about what, I mean, really, what is it that you're trying to accomplish long term, and what sort of strategies are you going to have to develop to assure yourself of success in accomplishing those goals. I mean, can you imagine going to war and trying to win a war without having any idea what's important in order
Hmm.
to do so? you know and if you don't know what's strategic, and what do you need to do? Well, you need to capture these three islands. Well, then obviously, if you don't know that, then you're not going to develop the tactics to be able to address the needs of the strategy, right? In order
Right.
to take over those three islands, in order to win
And,
the war.
and studying your competitors, right? I mean, that plays into that. What may seem like a good idea may not be such a good idea depending on what they're doing, right?
Yeah,
All those variables change
yeah.
change your perspective.
And interestingly enough, David, this also is a part of our spiritual life, right? And that is, what's important to me is getting back to Heavenly Father important to me. Okay, so strategically, what do I need to do to be able to make that happen, right? And then there are tactical things that go along with that.
Sure.
But if you don't think about the how, okay, what is it that you want to accomplish? And then what are the important steps and things that you have to assure to be 100% sure that they are executed correctly, in order to be able to do that. And whether we're talking about business or whether we're talking about our spiritual lives, the process is exactly the same.
Yeah. Man, that is great insight. Thanks for your time, brother. I really
Same,
appreciate it.
same here.
We've had some wonderful conversations, and it just didn't feel right not to share some of those with other folks because if they get half as much out of it as I do, then this is going to be really good for them. So, thanks again, and until next time, everybody, have a good day.
Thank you, David.